very smart salons where they're well educated, I can remember being in many, many salons where there would be some stylist trundling down the salon on 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, waving an empty color tube, right? And the color clients, and we haven't got any, right? Panic descends, the warehouse is shut. Whereas the senior people in the operation would be, that's okay. First of all, you would train them never to come on the sales floor and do that again. But the senior people would be, it's not a problem. What we do is we just mix whatever it is, 6O and 8O, and make this, and we haven't got peroxide and we can dilute that. It's not a problem. Or I've got a contact at another salon, or I got some in the boot of my car. You know, People do come up with solutions when it's as with experience and with guidance. My name's Carl Hinder, and you're listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast, the podcast for salon spa and clinic owners who want to grow with more structure, more confidence, and better results. Episode 61 with Jennifer Livins, Part 2, Human Resources and Legislation to Help Salon Spas and Clinics. I heard something really, really interesting the other day about uh, cultural changes in a business. This was a slightly larger business than the average salon, which um, is 5 staff. And what this business owner had said, they had to create this over time, is that you can bring. They told the staff, if you like, this was the culture. You can bring me any problem you want, but you can only bring it to me with a solution. So if you were to think like that, because then they will start to think, well, this gives the salon owner, this gives Carl a real problem. So my solution now might be, look, I do need this half day in 3 days' time, but I'm prepared to come in Sunday morning for that client, or I'm prepared to come back in the evening because it's a wedding, or I'm prepared to, or I've organized another member of staff to come in if you're happy to pay them, or so this is all to do with managing teams. You're not going to be able to. You can't actually just instigate that. You can't just say, "Don't bring me any problems unless you got a solution." That doesn't work because you can't expect 18, 19-year-old people to come up with all these clever solutions. All they see is the problem. But this goes all the way back. I thought it was a fabulous culture they'd created. It'd taken them a couple of years. And so you took whatever problem you wanted and you just said, I got this problem, or the business has got this problem for that matter, or we've run out of color. Now I know in very smart salons where they're well educated, I can remember being in many, many salons where there would be some stylist trundling down the salon on 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, waving an empty color tube, right? And the color clients, and we haven't got any, right? Panic descends, the warehouse is shut. Whereas the senior people in the operation would be, that's okay. First of all, you would train them never to come on the sales floor and do that again. But the senior people would be, it's not a problem. What we do is we just mix whatever it is, 6O and 8O, and make this, and we haven't got peroxide and we can dilute that. It's not a problem. Or I've got a contact at another salon, or I got some in the boot of my car. You know, People do come up with solutions when it's as with experience and with guidance. So don't expect them to just do that, but it is a cultural thing that I think overcomes a lot of this.
It does, and it's the confidence bit as well, isn't it? And how we manage people and how we ask them to get to come up with things. So when they come to us,
Yeah.
it's going, yeah, so important.
Yeah, instead of what are you going to do about it? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not what I mean. There are places to say that, by the way, but it's not when someone is emotionally sensitive themselves.
yes, definitely, yeah, yeah. No, but there's lots of ways to work with people to get them to, yeah, as you say, gain that experience and get them to a place where actually they do come to you and say, right, this is going on, but actually I'm going to offer this. This is the potential solution.
Yeah. What I don't want people to do, you see, salon owners, is I don't want them to switch their mind to think, oh, that's another barrier. That's another good reason to not have staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm keen on because I know as a salon business coach that it is really only salons with staff that can reach their financial potential. So
Yeah.
we have to stay in the employed market if you want to reach financial potential. But I can understand, can't you? It's like a little bit of a knock every time, and we put in the employee always before the employer, so it feels.
Yeah, and that's it. And I get it as well from my own business. Okay, I'm running the HR consultancy rather than the salon, but it's the same thing. It's like to employ other people, you've got to have trust in them. They then need time off, and you're dealing with all those. And yeah, okay, I've got the luxury of knowing employment law inside and out, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with the difficult things. Certainly doesn't make it any easier when I've had to dismiss my own staff because there's an
Yeah,
emotional connection. And yeah, you're suddenly managing different things. But you're right, with any of these businesses, the only way you can grow, I mean, when I look at the maths on it, you go, well, it's kind of a no-brainer because I haven't got enough hours in the day to earn the income that I could if with a bigger team. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it with this is where having somebody like myself, and I'd say go with myself, on the end of the phone is so important because there for a lot of this stuff it doesn't have to take all the time and effort that you think it will. There's a lot of ways to streamline it. There's, I mean, a simple email or phone call to me often solves a problem really, really quickly. And it is that when you it's as you said, the overwhelm at the beginning when you're looking at having to do all of this yourself, you can see why it feels like a problem. But also if you build this from the beginning, if you're in the luxury stage of looking to take on your first employee, don't wait till it goes wrong. What so many people do go, oh yeah, I've had 5 employees, a couple of years now. We're all really good friends. It works really well, but now it's gone wrong and it then falls apart. And there's no foundations in place. It falls apart very, very quickly. If you're taking on your first employee, get it right then. And it's not going to cost you a huge amount to get it right then. And working with
yeah.
somebody like myself. But you've then got the foundations to grow your business. And that's when you're going to be making the money as a salon owner.
Yeah. And going back to that overwhelm, overload, and stress as well, guys. There's when you got Jennifer in your corner, and maybe you have made mistakes. I mean, thankfully, before my salon career, I had a retail career and I had fabulous, fabulous HR training. And I moved into that zone fully prepared. But I had a HR company all the time from day one, even though I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I was very experienced. There's nothing like the pressure draining away when you speak to HR. You know what I mean? And he said, "This, I don't know. We've got a situation where this person's sick all the time, or they've just stolen something, or something like that." And you got the protection of a contract, and you got an expert at the end of the phone. There's the only other better feeling is to never get in that position ever. But anyone who's out there now who's thinking, that sounds like me. I haven't got contracts. They're not very good contracts. My team are amazing, but I can see something going wrong. Things are changing in the marketplace. Reach out to Jennifer now because you need that insurance. You just need you. We've got to keep that overwhelm away from you, and this is a great, great way. Okay, then Jennifer, we're talking about this, and you said there was some other stuff coming in as well. So there was some paternity stuff, I think you said.
Yes, there's a change to paternity. So paternity leave is the right to 2 weeks of leave, which is paid at statutory paternity pay. And currently, or up till April 2024, it was um, 2 weeks in one block to be taken within 56 days of the birth of the child, or 56 days the expected date if the baby was born early. The change is that it's still 2 weeks. It's still paid at statutory paternity pay, but those 2 weeks can be taken in two individual blocks. So you can take a week now and a week later. And you have the first year of the baby's life to be able to take that 2 weeks. So you've got a bigger time frame to take it in and you can split it. So you could say take, I don't know, a week when the baby's first born and then another week at 3 months, 6 months, and split it like that. So it's a smaller change, probably not going to have a huge amount of impact, but it's really important to be aware that that change is there and there's a little bit more flexibility around taking paternity leave.
Just as an aside,
Mm.
there's no reason for you to know this. Just as an aside, what's the kind of uptake with paternity? Is there still kind of a resistance to it, or a nonchalance towards it, or do you think, or is it embraced now across most industries?
I don't know what the statistics are, but I come across it very regularly. So shared parental leave, I don't. I think the statistics are down about 1% for share, which is where maternity leave is ended early, and they share more of the leave between
Yeah.
the mother and her partner, or the baby's father. That has a very low uptake. So I don't know what the stats are on paternity leave, but we come across it probably almost as regularly as we come across maternity leave. So I'd say that
Oh,
the stats are relatively good. I suspect that they vary from industry to industry.
mm,
I suspect there's particularly some male dominated industries where the stats are a lot lower. But yeah, I don't know them
okay.
offhand, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, let's use it. Just use the podcast as an awareness, then. You
Yeah.
know, so anyone listen, men obviously for paternity, listening to
It
this.
doesn't have to
Um,
be. It's the mum's partner. So it's
oh,
either the father of the baby or the mother's partner. So as long as they are expected to take on responsibility for looking after the child.
right,
So
okay, partners.
yeah. So technically, you could have the father and the mum's partner could be two people both
Yeah,
taking paternity leave for the same baby. We don't come across that one very often, but
okay.
yeah. So yeah.
If that happens to you guys, don't phone me. Um, Phone Jennifer, because that definitely moves outside of my remit for sure. Okay, but awareness to partners
Yeah,
that you do have these opportunities. Let's call them
yeah,
opportunities,
yeah,
and awareness to business salon spa clinic owners. That is something you've got to manage, and good. It makes you a good boss. And there are things as a business coach that I can help you with in terms of managing all that. It all sounds like it's negative, and it really isn't. I
yeah,
haven't been a salon owner of 4 salons. God, my heart, my emotions are all aligned with you, as I promise you. But there are some things have changed. There are some
mm,
opportunities now that we can find ways of managing this. So be positive, guys.
yeah.
Anything else that's current or in this period that we should be aware of in terms of legislation?
So the other one that's changed is the right to request flexible working. So it's still only a right to request. So it's not a guaranteed right to have. There are 8 business reasons you can turn down a flexible working request, but the right is now a day one right. So you used to have 26 weeks of service to be able to request flexible working. Now you can walk in on day one and request it. Now, this brings us back to a couple of things that you've already mentioned. One, just to mention really quickly, they've actually taken out of the legislation the requirement for you to talk about how this impacts the business. So you used to have to put in your request for flexible working and then talk about how this will impact the business, i.e., come in with the solution. That has been taken out of the legislation. We can't enforce that now under that legislation. So, business culture, as you talk about, where people routinely think about solutions, is really beneficial to overcoming that. Because I do think it's important. I'm disappointed that got taken out of the legislation because I think you're right. I think if we are coming to our employers and saying, I need this time off or I need to change my hours, we should be thinking, well, what's going to be the impact? How do we balance both people's needs and things? I think that is really important. So
Yeah,
I agree with encouraging that as part of your culture. And then the other thing is around issuing employment contracts and going back to that piece and also recruitment. Because what you don't want is you go through all your recruitment and you've gone through, I know this person's going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and that's fine. That's the job you advertised Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and then they turn up on day one, and you give them your contract, their contract, and they give you back a letter that says, "And I request flexible working. I now only want to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday." Because that's no use to you. That you're going to be turning that down because you're going to have a really solid business reason why Saturdays are part of the role and why you need them in on a Saturday. When the law was introduced, and it was with the intention that employers would be thinking flexible working first. So when they advertise a role, thinking, how can this be done more flexibly? It's interesting one that's come in because it, as with a lot of employment legislation, it tends to be written by people who have only ever worked in an office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And that tends to be what the thought process is when laws are coming in. So flexible working, it is around that. Can I work different hours, different locations? So can I work from home? Can I work 8 till 4 instead of 9 till 5 kind of thing is what was really intended. Um, and it's getting those employers to think around that. Now, that there's obviously some interesting things with demanding people back into the office after the pandemic and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
which obviously we're not facing in the salon industry because we know it's a, you've kind of got to be present. We can't do that one over Zoom. So it is thinking about, okay, so what does flexible working mean and how can this job be done flexibly? So what do I need somebody when I advertise this job? Is it really Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday? Or could it be 4 different days? Could it be, or is it Saturday is absolute, the other ones? I'm just giving examples of
yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
worth as part of that recruitment process, and certainly having that conversation as part of the recruitment process to say, look, what are you looking for, and trying to marry them both up so you don't go through all that process and get someone land you a flexible working request on day one, because that's going to cause anyone stress to have
yeah.
that. So
I mean, I see over the years this is, and all of the time, salons in a terrible, terrible mess complying with these requests. Now, I don't think they're doing them under legislation. They're just going into work and basically saying, I can't do Thursday mornings anymore. Okay.
yes,
Or I can't do Saturdays, or I want that off. Now, we are so desperate in our minds to hold on to that member of staff. Usually the excuse I get, but Carl, she is amazing. Okay. And I can't afford to lose her. I won't get anyone better. She's been here a long time. You have to be careful, guys. I see most salons in a mess when it comes to staffing. Most salons, most of you are not even going to believe this. Most salons are overstaffed. Lots of people tell me I can't get staff. When we look at the figures, they're overstaffed because we end up with, I'm giving you an example here, with, I don't know, 4 people on Tuesday, okay, and 2 people on Saturday. Now, there's something I do when I'm coaching is I work out your target sales, and it should be roughly in line. If 40% of your sales are on Saturday, we need 40% of your hours there or thereabouts, depending on the service standard. There's no point having 40% on Tuesday if only 12% of your sales are there. Legislation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, legislation hasn't been put into place to mess your business up and create that. You're not under a legal obligation to ruin your own business by saying, yes, you can all take Saturdays off and work Tuesdays where there is no clientele. So sometimes you're going to need to go to Jennifer and say, they're requesting all this stuff, either formally or informally. I don't know what to do. You can actually, by the way, guys, on a non legislative basis, contact me. I can guide you through the pro rata staffing that you should be having, whether it's a good decision or not, depending on your service. But when we get to the legal requests, you might want to lean on Jennifer and say, you know, they've keep putting out. How often can they put the request in? A couple of
but
times, wasn't it?
yeah, these are the bits that can really work to your advantage,
Yeah,
because you're right, I've got a couple of clients where there every few weeks I'm getting, oh, so and so's changed their hours to this now, and oh, so and so's changed their hours and then we have to recalculate our holiday entitlement and all, like, and that, I mean, that's a HR headache nightmare in itself. So yes, the legislation says that you can only make 2 requests a year. Now, as much as we've said everything about relationship building and getting to know people and all of that is great stuff, but there comes a time where sometimes you want to be able to say, no, the law says no, I am not doing any more. And it could be they've come to you with 2 requests in the year and you just say, no, not even hearing it, because you've given me 2 already, because it's 2 within any 12 months period. So they've then got to wait for that time. Now, you don't have to say no. If it suits your needs, bite their hand off, say yes, absolutely. or if you just want to because you know that actually what's going on in their life means that they weren't anticipating that this third request was going to be needed, you may well want to accept it, but you can say no. And so that really important, use that to your advantage. And then the other thing is that you can turn down requests, and that where what Carl was just mentioning there is so important. So that those statistics you're talking about, and this is where I'd say, yeah, go to Carl and get this information, because this is really going to help you. Somebody is coming in saying, I don't want to work Saturday anymore, I want to work Tuesday, and you've got this data that says 40% of our work is on Saturday and 12% is on Tuesday. I've already got 12% staffed on Tuesday. Then we can use either there is not a vacancy in the role that you want, i.e., there's not work available on Tuesday, or there's not a work available at the time you want it. And again, not work available on Tuesday. So we can use those are solid business reasons to say no. You don't have to say yes every time somebody walks in going, oh, well, I want this, or
Mm.
the childminder can't do Wednesdays now. Can I not do that? I get it. As a parent myself, completely get it. If the childminder now can't do Wednesdays, it's going to be a problem. And you might work with them to find some way that they can give them a day off so they can go and find another childminder, find a solution. But you don't have to say, oh, your childminder can't, oh, that's okay, you don't have to work Wednesdays anymore. You don't have to say that. This is where that you need to know where you can say no and
Yeah.
where your power is, because I think you're right. And that thing of, yeah, I want to keep people, it doesn't keep people though if you're overstaffed and you're just spending money.
But when you're keeping people, I think there's something that's overlooked here. When the person who's making the request, they are focused on their needs or their desires, maybe they're not needs, okay,
Yeah.
their convenience. I think we overlook the impact on others.
Yeah.
I think this is, if you're going to grow a team, it has to be a team decision. So if you take someone off, I don't know, let's say a Thursday night, and there's only, let's say there's only one other on there,
Hmm.
and now you take them off a Thursday night because they can't make it, their bus has stopped running or something, I don't know,
Mm.
right? And they can't organize transport. I understand that when we're considering that in isolation, that might not be such a bad thing because they now do Saturday for you. You'd be like, oh, great. But if the impact now is negative on the person that's left, like they've got a security issue, they're working on their own, they feel uneasy, they can't cope with the workload, the phone's ringing too much, and you can't fix it with alternative staffing. I'm not just saying no. What I'm saying is be a professional and work that out. That's probably more in my category. Help you work that out than Jennifer's, but work work it out. Don't say yes. Now I'm going to take you down a path, you Jennifer, that we weren't planning on going down,
Okay.
but it is directly related to this because the biggest impact that I see on this is not the right to change. It is actually return from maternity. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Which is exactly the same piece.
Okay. So yeah, isn't it right? So
Yeah.
someone's, I don't know. Now, I might be wrong on this. My understanding has always been that you have a right to come back to the role and conditions that and hours that has to be protected, right?
Yep. There's some
Okay.
slight technical differences as to whether they come back after 6 months or a year,
Oh,
but I will leave it with yours. I think
yeah.
that's
Well, that's
perfect.
what I've always
Yep.
kind of gone down.
Yep.
That's what I ran my businesses on, and that's what I
Yep.
coach on.
Yep.
I say, look, they're protected. Just if they're on, I don't know, if they're on Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, before they go, and they're on £20 an hour, well, they're coming back on 9 to 5 minutes. The
Yep.
problem we have is not all, but some and many
Hmm.
new mothers don't want to come back on those terms, conditions, and pay.
Hmm.
So what I see is we just go, what do you want to do? Honestly,
Yeah.
we go like that. They go, I just want to do, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 till 12. And we go, well, so glad to have her back. And your clients will be so happy. And then we do that twice or 3 or 4 times in 5 years, not with that one person, with the team. And before we know it, we've got this team all over the place
Hmm.
doing whatever they want to do. So
Yep.
give us a bit of guidance on whether I was giving good advice or whether there's a bit more there's a bit more flexibility in that kind of situation.
No, you're exactly right. They are entitled to come back to the job they left. So yep, they were working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. When they left, that's what they come back to. That's the job that they are entitled to. If they want to change their hours, then that is a flexible working request. So everything that I've just said exactly fits here. And I think people are mistaken in this, in that they often think, oh, someone's coming back from maternity leave, I have to say yes to this. You don't. It is a flexible working request, just the same as everything else that I've talked about, and the same things apply. So they should put in their request to say these are the hours I want to come back on. That's the most common, as you say, changing hours. There's two times it's most common, I think, is one is return from maternity leave, and then when the child starts school. They tend to be the two biggest times that we see
Yeah.
working requests come in. And so yeah, fundamentally, it's they put in their request, and you consider it in line with the business. And as you've just said, you've got to consider it in line with the needs of the business, because otherwise you end up staffed at the wrong times. People just come in doing whatever they want, and you also end up with other people being disgruntled. And this is where you get the, well, just because she's a mum, she gets this automatically. And actually, the law doesn't say that. The law doesn't give mums any priority. It did at one point, but it doesn't anymore give them any priority over anybody else. It doesn't matter. And actually, when we're dealing with flexible working requests, we shouldn't even need to ask, why are you asking for flexible working? It's none of our business. Whether they want to, I don't know, go and play golf or go shopping on a Friday afternoon, whatever it is they want to do, fine. It's, does this meet the needs of the business? It's not our duty to put some moral judgment on, oh, well, actually, you can have it because you're looking after a child, and that's more important than playing golf or whatever it is that you want to do. That's not our judgment to make. Um, it's purely, does it meet the needs of the business? Can the business accommodate it?
Honestly, that's the in terms of practical things that happen in all the time in salons. That's the highlight of the podcast almost, is that people got to realize how to manage a return from maternity, if you like, in a way that suits everyone if possible.
Yeah.
I'm all for that, by the way, guys. But you don't have to capitulate and damage your business, because one of the things that you have a responsibility for, once you've done this flex, you have a responsibility for job security.
Yeah.
There's no point having someone, like I said, 4 people on Tuesday, and you can't, and all the sales are on Friday and Saturday, because we're only 6 months or a year away from turning around and saying to someone, "Need to cut back your hours, or we need to close that day, or we need to close the business." We have to be proper entrepreneurial. I don't think that's good English, but we have to behave an entrepreneurial way, which means understanding everything in context.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to more legislation heading our way.
Yes.
Come on, let's do this.
So, the end of the year, October, we have a duty to prevent sexual harassment coming into force. So, this will require, for the first time, employers to make sure that they're not only tackling it if it is reported. So, we've always had a duty of care to tackle things like sexual harassment, actually harassment. So, we've got harassment and sexual harassment legally defined. We've also got victimization legally defined, bullying not legally defined, but we still have to provide a duty of care. So it's, we are responsible for making sure that we've got a safe working environment for people. But what this legislation is doing is going a little bit further than that, to say actually we have a duty to prevent sexual harassment. And that's going to mean things like making sure you've got a policy in place regarding it, making sure that you've got a reporting mechanism. Now, in a salon, if you've got 5 employees, you're not going to have some like big reporting procedure. It's probably going to be the salon owner, but making sure that you've got that, and that people know what to do if things are said to them. And bear in mind, this could be other staff, but it could also be clients as well, where this is coming from. And so you can have a duty there, and you can have a duty to train people as well. So making sure that people are trained in what sexual harassment looks like. So what it is, how we define it, what to do if you witness it, what to do if you experience it, how to step in and say something if something's happening that you're not comfortable with, or you're whether you're the victim of or witnessing too. So that's going to put some responsibility on employers that hasn't been there before, and particularly around the training piece as well. So it's going to be something to be really aware of. And again, I, I think this is going to get some publicity. I think people are going to to see more about it. And I think it's going to make sexual harassment talked about more, because I know in recent years when I've done like training and things, I get a lot of comments of, oh, in the 70s, this is what the office was like. In the 80s, this was what the office was like. And it's not been talked about. Certainly in recent years, it's been a lot quieter on that, on the front of sort of sexual harassment and things. I strongly suspect that's because settlement agreements have come in, gagging clauses, and the fact that this law is coming in indicates that there is a lot going on underneath that isn't being so talked about. So I think we've gone through a wave of, it was like the norm and just what you expected at work, to let's talk about this and stop it happening, to it's now gone under the radar. It's gone sort of really covert, to, well, okay, now we need legislation in place to
Mhm.
protect that. And I think that's where we're going in the end October this year. So it really is time to get sort of some preparation for that and make sure that you're aware. But I think, I mean, bullying, harassment in general, we're seeing a much greater impact. People are much more aware of it. They're much more aware of kind of their own sort of boundaries, their own expectations of how people treat them. And we see the impacts from it in all sorts of different directions in the workplace. So this, I think, piece of legislation is going to perhaps have some ripple effects as well, in some sort of wider understandings and looking at what people are expecting in terms of bullying and harassment at work.
I think once we've had one or two high profile cases, it'll explode then, because I think the trouble is with harassment or sexual harassment is sometimes it's trivialized.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
often it's trivialized by the victim, but it's usually, in my opinion, it's trivialized by the perpetrator, because they might be just saying something or doing something which has often been normal. What makes me highly aware of this is that this legislation isn't simply for salon spas and clinics. This is a blanket legislation.
Yeah.
And my heightened awareness is my wife is in the building industry. You know what I mean? The way she has been spoken to since I've known her in some settings is literally like the 60s and 70s. It is very cringeworthy, it's very inappropriate. She's moved into a slightly different area and sector now where that isn't, as far as I'm aware, a problem. But we have to be careful, and it was important comment you made there when you know we are, I think, 90 no 85% male female at the moment in the salon spa clinic industry, but we also have a connection with the client, right?
Hmm.
Which I'm guessing is 50-50 across the whole industry. So we've got to look at this in the round. We've got to kind of
Yeah.
understand, where do they get that kind of discipline, not discipline, where does business owners, you is the answer, but
Yeah.
where do they get this um, terminology? Where do they get this? How do they define what sexual harassment is? I know it's going to be on a website somewhere, but
Yeah.
that's the bit. How do they kind of connect with those kinds of things are not acceptable, because currently they might be?
Yes, and that's where definition is important. So yeah, the simple answer is there's a legal definition, but actually recognizing the behaviors that are sexual harassment and linking that to the definition is really important, and seeing those behaviors uh, in the round as well. So we've also got things like minimization, deflection. So when particularly females in a male dominated environment, you'll get responses like, oh, you're sensitive, or are you on your period, are you, those kind of deflective comments that kind of make, actually my behavior is not the problem, your reaction is. And the the legal definitions, you're not going to get that nuance from the legal definitions. That's where you're going to need training from people who understand those, so that you can recognize the behaviors. And I think that's the really important part, is going to be making sure that you've got that training, as a salon owner, to recognize it, know how to step in, know how to investigate it, know how to deal with it if somebody reports it to you, so you don't minimize it. Because it can be really, I mean, historically, the first thing women get asked when the serious things happen to them is, what were you wearing? And
Mm.
it's those sorts of questions that you've got to say, well, okay, wait a minute, how do I respond to this? What do I how do I respond if somebody comes and reports this to me? um and of course you could get also the things get normalized. So somebody who was in an office in the 80s is going to have a very different sort of normalized experience to somebody who's entering the workforce now. So those sorts of things as well mean that we need training to make sure that we've got that awareness and not just looking at the definitions. And that's definitely something that I'm going to be looking at doing. So we're launching a face-to-face training, which I know for most salon owners is not going to be beneficial. So we're also looking at a digital course as well. So if it's not cost effective for you to bring me out on site to sort of got 14 people to train, then I'm going to be doing a digital offering. So that's something that we're just looking at, what making sure that we're compliant with that legislation and exactly what legislation is, and waiting for some guides and things to come out to make sure that that's compliant. But that's going to be a really important thing to make sure that as a salon owner you're familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with all aspects of team management, and I mean, this is such a difficult path to tread.
Mm.
And I'll say that because my last kind of session, podcast session, was with Tracy Monroe, who's a mindful um, menopause coach. And we are talking about things like speaking to your team, right, about the menopause.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I might have even talked about one of the experiences that I had about managing people in my retail sector, about understanding when they were on their period and being aware of it and all those kinds of things. So you want to do all those things in the right way because the benefits are huge, but you
Yeah,
tackle them in the wrong way and you're heading down a sexual harassment path, aren't you? So
exactly.
we
Yeah.
can't manage without you then, really, can we?
It's going to be really important to get it right. Actually, I was talking to a client the other day, and she was saying that she'd got a member of staff, and they had conflict in the office once a month. Wasn't a salon, it was an office space, but this lady found a really good member of staff, but found herself in conflict. And the lady responsible for HR spotted a pattern and said to her, "Could this be linked to your cycles?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And as a result, they've been able to work out, okay, how do we can now avoid this conflict? We know that you struggle in the office in those days, therefore we can avoid the conflict. And and yeah, some we have to, as women, we have to face that our bodies are not consistent. Our
Yeah, but
bodies.
I could. But if I did that, I'm not saying it would because it never has, and I hope it never will, because I like to manage my team. But if I did that, that could be that person might say, "Why are you saying that I got problems because I'm a woman?"
And it,
And
and
then
it,
I'm like,
that's where it comes down to the way you ask, and also the relationships. And it comes
"Yeah,
back to what we talked about, because if you've got those relationships with people, then it is going to be much easier to have those conversations with somebody. Whereas if you out of the blue said said to somebody you're on your period, then yeah, that it could be seen as a kind of way of deflection, a way of saying actually your what you've got to say isn't important, and all
mm,
of those things. So how you say things, and that's the thing. I can't give you a list and go, don't say this, don't say this, don't say this,
no,
because a
no."
lot of it is, it's the how, it's the context, it's the wider
Well, I think it's
thing.
the setting as well. I mean,
Yeah,
you can do it in an appraisal setting, you can do it in a review setting, you can do it in a witness setting. What I mean is, you know, you and maybe another female could have a meeting with this person. So you got a witness, things are being documented, so it looks
yeah,
formal. Because I think it's a bit different sitting down and doing a formal thing. Say, listen, you got a performance issue. I want to go through some of the options as opposed to walking past them in the staff room going, you know, it's your time of month again, is it? You know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly,
You know, what
yeah,
I mean? I think that's the context, and this goes all the way back, okay, to when we started talking about this. This is all to do with people in our industry, salon owners, business owners, clinic owners, being able to manage teams.
yeah,
That
yeah,
is your job. Once you've got a member of staff, your job isn't just to do services anymore. You now have to manage people and teams. And that's not the reason why I want you to get smaller. You just gotta, and don't be frightened by all of this. It's frightening, isn't it, Jennifer? You're like, they're listening to us now. They're going, they'll all be closing down, Jennifer. They're like, I'm all going to close. This is
Don't.
too difficult, but it's not
Yeah,
difficult. You
it's
put it
not.
all in. You get yourself well trained.
Yeah,
Like 90% of most businesses, you have good systems and procedures in place,
yeah,
and things will flow and follow, and you will really ever have a problem. I
yeah,
never, with 4 salons and good management, I never had any cases of sexual harassment or bullying, certainly not brought to my attention, etc etc, because you act in a professional way, and
yeah,
it's going to be very rare.
yeah.
They are
It,
rare, aren't they? These incidents
they
are
are.
rare, but in the
Yeah,
context of daily interaction. But the context is now going to change.
yeah. It is, and it's just about making sure that we're being more proactive, I think, as managers. And I think that's what this legislation is starting to lean us towards, is saying actually it's your duty to be more proactive about sort of respectful work environments and healthy work environments. But these things are all good for business. And it does sound scary. It does sound, oh, we can't say anything. But actually, if you care about what you say and you care about how it lands with people, that's a brilliant start. Actually, you're unlikely to say the wrong thing, or if you do and somebody says, I wasn't really happy with that, you how you respond to that makes a huge difference as well. And that's about, we are all human, so we're going to make mistakes, but
Yeah,
how we deal with those, and as you say, the relationships is so important in that.
great. Is there anything else? I mean, we've had an absolute fantastic podcast, or two, for that matter. Um, is there anything else that people are missing? I mean, we've talked a good amount about business as well as legislation, as well as HR. We've had a really good balance for salon spa clinic owners to be able to go and get some support. What about you? How do people get hold of you? How do they get in contact? How can they, access you?
Well, if you've got specific questions, then you can email me, Jennifer at silkhelix.co.uk. And I know that Carl said he'll put that in the show notes as well. If you want to just find out a bit more about HR, employment law, and the things you should be thinking about, then my YouTube channel at Silk Helix is definitely one to be having a look at, or indeed on TikTok as well, where we break it down a bit smaller for you. But yeah, so they're probably the main ways to get in touch. I'll also give you my website to put onto the show notes as well, because that'll give you all the details of things that we can support you with. Getting your contracts and things right will be the absolute foundation, that I'd say would be the starting point for everyone. And get on my mailing list as well if you want to find out about when that training comes out.
Yeah, look, get on this mailing list, guys. Go into the show notes. All of Jennifer's details will be in there. And if you can't find them and you're listening to this, inbox me, send me a message, email me, write me a letter if you want, okay? And I'll put you in contact with Jennifer. So no excuses, guys. You've got loads and loads of expert help and support from Jennifer when it comes to HR. You've got all the coaching support you're ever going to need from me to run a successful business. A lot of this is just changing your mindset, just kind of changing a little bit of what you do. It's not as big a change as perhaps we've portrayed today, but we all have to be more and more professional. And we all have to focus on the important things in our business. Jennifer, would you like to um, summarize anything?
No, thank you. And I think what you said there about the business and HR bit, for me, that's really important, because what I would never want to do is be coming in and saying, no, employment law says this. It doesn't. I don't care how you run your business. This is what you need to do. For me, it's all, this is what you need to do in your business. Right. Let me find a way we can get the employment law to work for you to make that work. And that those two bits together have got to work together, because otherwise, as you say, it's your employees running you, and that's not the way around it
And do you
can
know
be.
what? That's what I've enjoyed most about our relationship, Jennifer, is over the last year or two, when we've had our discussions, we've always tried to find a solution. I've worked with HR companies, which I won't mention, who are very no. Okay, they're very. I'm gonna hold my no button up for the wrong reason this time. Okay, so you can say no, but you don't want professionals. It's like having a coach or an accountant or anything like that, unless it's a strict legal issue.
Yeah.
there has to be a manageable way through, and I think that's a great way you approach things. You know, when you look at contracts, when you look at how we view contracts and terms and conditions and all those things, they have to be workable. Otherwise, we
Yeah.
crush businesses, and if we crush businesses, we don't have any employment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly don't like saying no. It takes a lot for me to have to go, no, you really can't do that. And there's always, yeah, as you say, finding a solution to it is the key thing for me, and making it work to what it is you need to be achieving.
Okay, then, guys, look, you've got a lot more power in your business than you think. You've got a lot more support than you think, and this podcast is here to help you as well. Now, don't forget, I'm here every Sunday. I told you this at the beginning. I'm here every Sunday at 4 p.m. trying to kickstart your week. If you want to know why we're called Good to go to the first podcast that I ever did. You'll learn and understand the ethos behind the Good to Go branding. Okay, then, guys, have a fabulous week, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye, Jennifer. Thanks so much.
Bye, Carl. Thank you.
You have been listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast. Please take a look in the show notes and pick up your link for Jennifer Livins. Leave us a review and let other salon, spa, and clinic owners know that I am here every Sunday to kickstart their week. I'll see you on the next episode.